There's always been a saying, you either love calisthenics or you hate calisthenics.
My name is Brianna Lee, and calisthenics is a massive part of my life. I mainly do it for the enjoyment of mixing with some of my closest friends, the joy of actually being able to perform on stage. And I think now that I am in seniors and being in a championship club, we do get to perform to a lovely big audience, and that really adds to it.
Lift your legs! Low, low, up.
My life isn't complete without a Tuesday at calisthenics. I'm a primary school teacher and I teach grade 6. They said something about what they do with the embryos when they keep going with this. Sony, you had your hand up. I've known about the Most Graceful Girl competition ever since I was a little girl. It's always been something that I've looked towards winning one day and dreamt of, being a part of. So the three most important solo competitions for Gracefuls are Victorian Calisthenics Coaches Association, which is followed then by Calisthenics Victoria Incorporated, our state championships, and then by the pinnacle of the Graceful solo competitions, Royal South Street Society, which is held in Ballarat each year. To win state championships, Most Graceful Girl is a very big honour, but particularly for Royal South Street Society because it's almost what you'd call equivalent to the Nationals.
We're looking for the outstanding performance of a girl with excellent poise, charisma, technique and artistry. It takes in the choreography, her ability to keep a controlled, smooth performance of elegance and grace, their strength, their flexibility, as well as the presentation of the performer. It all culminates in that one performance.
Well, I'm really hoping that I can win it. That's the ultimate goal. No matter what happens, this will be my last year. This is it for me and I want it so badly. I really do. I'm leaving it in the hands of the gods. As such, the adjudicators up there, if it happens, well, that's amazing. That'll be a culmination of my dreams in calisthenics ever since I was 3 years old.
to the night sky. Listen out for a moonshine flowing in the rafter.
That's looking really good. Just see if you can soften your wrists in a couple of spots, especially with that jet A with your arm going through fourth. Just mind that you don't sickle that top hand when you slide into the first split.
Diane would have to be one of the most creative minds I've ever met. She's so determined, she's amazingly talented, and she demands results, and often she gets them.
The Most Graceful Girl is a silly title. Well, they've changed the title to the Most Graceful Calisthenic Competitor, and it's the most prestigious solo competition in Australia, I would say. Not many families would have a common interest from granddaughter, mother, grandmother. Through 3 generations, you might have it in 2, but rarely in 3. I won the Graceful Girl competition in 1967. Brooke won Graceful Girl in 2001. Mum never competed in the Graceful competition because her teacher didn't believe in solos. She thought that detracted from being a team person.
I just loved every minute of it. I just loved it. Yes, that was my big thing every week. I used to look forward to Saturday.
My dad, just to get sympathy from anyone who would listen, always related the story of when he came home from overseas after the war. He was in World War II, and he met her coming up the garden path and she was on her way to class. She said, "Sorry, dear, I've got to go to class."
Growing up, I lived in a house that was calisthenics. And not just, oh, we go to cricket once a week. It's our life, it really is.
I started at a church in Croxton Methodist Church, and I had a little class there. I used to charge sixpence for a lesson. They closed that down during the war, but I brought the kids down to the St Luke's class, which was in North Fitzroy. That was when we started Regent, so that was the beginning of it. I was hopeful that, you know, one of these days I was going to be able to take them to Ballarat. Was the big thing, you know, to get a team to go to Ballarat.
Well, my first year in Senior Graceful was 2006, and I'd just come back from just purely focusing on ballet, so I hadn't done calisthenics for 4 years. And I do remember that first time stepping out onto the Ballarat stage. I was so nervous in the wings, but as I got onto the stage, nervousness was gone. The whole atmosphere of that theatre is amazing. It's really electric. And I just had the time of my life performing then. And since then, I suppose I've compared every performance to that very first one, because that electric buzz I got that first time was just amazing. And I came third, so it was a massive surprise. It wasn't something I was ever expecting. So the years following that, I came third the year after that again. I had a fifth the year following that. 2009 was my fourth try for Ballarat, and one of my closest friends, Megan Knight, was also competing. And I remember standing on stage, we're all in our semicircle. It was taking forever for them to figure out the results. And it was uncovered a little bit later that, and I haven't had this fully described to me, but from what I understand, there had actually been an equal first, a 3-way tie between Megan Knight, myself, and another girl, Amy Bickford. The adjudicators were divided on their decision, and in the end they decided that they would pick the winner from the 3 of us, and they went with Amy Bickford. And I think from that point on, it just made me all the more determined to, you know, come back and prove that I am worth a win. Because I felt, and I think Megan felt the same way, like it had been taken away from us almost. So the following year, I came back again, of course, because I wanted to get out there and I wanted to try and win. I did another good performance, My close friend Megan Knight, once again, performed beautifully. She won it that year, and that was so nice to see because we knew it was possibly either one of us. So I came second that year. Look, after Megan's win, I sort of thought to myself, maybe I'm a bit past this, maybe I should stop. But so many people kept saying to me, no, give it another go, you've got to do it, don't give up. There was still that little fire burning inside me that was motivating me to go out there and give it another bash. I had unfortunately been injured the months leading up to our state championships, so I was sort of balancing foot injuries and trying to practice my solo without making the injuries worse. But once again was lucky enough to put in a really lovely performance. And yeah, so we're standing on stage, ready for results.
Competitor number 15.
And they called my number. I cried. The minute they called out my number, I came up for my speech and I mumbled through it with tears.
Oh, goodness. I'm so happy. Congratulations to everyone in this beautiful section.
I was so happy I'd finally won it. And I felt like everything was falling into place for me. Next thing I know, people were ringing me the following day and asking me what my scores were on my crits, what my places were, which is entirely private. And I knew there'd been discussion behind my back, and I knew people were doubting that the results were correct.
Unfortunately, her marks were calculated by one method, and they should have been calculated by an alternative method. They were extremely apologetic. But for Brianna at that time to have been awarded the state title and then have it taken back 2 days later, just after she'd had the shield engraved and striving for it for so long, to have it taken away was just devastating.
I would go so far as to say it totally killed the love of the sport for me.
Nobody in the general population seems to know much about calisthenics at all. So people stumble upon it without actually knowing what it is in the beginning, and then they get hooked.
Calisthenics is a word coined in the late 1800s, and it comes from two Greek words, kalos, beauty or grace, and sthenos, strength.
It mixes with ballet, gymnastics, various forms of dance, singing. So it is the variety that really attracts children to want to do it in the first place.
We commence our open section now.
At school thinks I've told them the name before, but they don't really get what I say. So, like, they ask me, what is it, what do you do? And I just, because they do dancing and drilling, and I just say I do dancing. They think it's actually kind of like hip-hop. I'm like, it's not hip-hop, it's a kind of dancing. She's like, no, it's not, it's hip-hop. And I'm like,
I guess we've been involved in calisthenics since the kids were very, very little, and I did calisthenics and my mother did calisthenics. It's addictive, very addictive, but when your kids are happy and enjoying what they're doing, and I won't say they enjoy every minute of it, The training can be pretty gruelling and pretty tough, but they get so much out of it, the friendship, just the vitality of it all, just being in a team is really important.
Calisthenics is now officially a sport. I don't look on it as a sport. I think it's an art. It's not done overseas at all. It is unique to Australia.
Australian calisthenics came from Europe, and it came with the migrants that poured into Australia, particularly in Victoria in the gold rush in the 1850s, and bringing with them physical culture, which was then a craze for bodily development through exercise, acrobatics, gymnastics, and particularly calisthenic exercises. The calisthenic elements concentrated on the perfect body, and that was a body that was equally strong and beautiful on both sides.
So Megan and Jackie, when we're setting this, just come in one more step. So now Listy come in and Cara come in. Even a bit, one more floorboard. So back V, face the back again.
Well, Brooke's one of my closest friends and we get along like house on fire.
Aware of your positions there.
As a coach, I admire her so much. I regard her as one of the best coaches Australia has, to be honest.
Ladies dancing here are searching vision.
Hold. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3. Go, hold it then. 3, 2, 1, and foot.
Ideally with seniors, everyone wants the same thing. You want to go to Ballarat and you do want to win the aggregate because you've put in so much time and so many hours.
Well, I think our choreography is probably better than last year because Brooke's taken over most of it and it's a little more modern than my style, so that'll be more promising.
At this stage, we've got a lot of rival clubs, but once we build up a bit more, I know that Regent is the club to beat at the moment. Our first comps are happening in July, and then they go through to October in Ballarat. So each competition, there are 8 items in the senior section. We start with march, clubs, free arm, rods, aesthetic, rhythmic, song and dance, and then the calisthenic review to finish. It's been drilled into me, you go to win, you really do. You put in that many hours, we really do want to come home with the first place.
If that next bit can be really low and then a little pop, should be like a surprise pop, and then really enjoy being blown by the wind.
So much of the year is spent making the team become a solid unit, and so individual corrections are obviously there all the time, but the number one priority, once you reach about May, it's time to, be a team, and that's where your focus is.
I think the wider calisthenic community is getting to know Brooke that little bit better now, and considering she's the principal coach at Regent, word's getting out.
Make sure you go along your diagonal there. Thank you. What do we do now?
Aesthetics, please. Diane's contribution to calisthenics is just amazing. She's an enigma. When we heard that she was going to be Brianna's coach, we were just absolutely blown away by it. And so Diane took her on from the age of 14. I was in awe of Diane. I think anyone who knew that Diane was the principal of Regent and Diane's background was in awe of her and her work.
I started when I was 5 at a local church hall, and Diane was my teacher. You can pick a Diane routine as soon as you see it on stage because of her creativity. It's just amazing. It's always had that different look. She can be hard, she can yell, but you know if she says something to you that it is an encouragement to improve. And that's what makes her Diane.
When you're getting into it.
Her reputation as a teacher, I think, has possibly changed over the years.
Saturday, Brooke came down and she fixed you in the circle because you keep standing near Ella, and you've got to stand halfway between the two people either side.
From what I understand, she mellowed out once she had kids.
Right, Lisa, you're being dopey today, aren't you?
Apparently. Before that, I believe everyone was petrified of her. Now everyone's just a little scared.
Diane, I'm telling you now, I forgot to put my gold stripes on the march, and I forgot to do the things on the aesthetics.
Well, you're a dope, aren't you?
Oh, come on.
I think they know how hard she expects you to work, and you come with that little buzz in your belly to each class because you know you're not going to get away with anything.
Cara, make the angle a bit sharper on that one. Right. Well, apart from Brooke not knowing where she's going, the mistakes seem to be coming from about 4 of you. I'd say there were about 4 of you made probably 10 mistakes each, so you need to lift your game a little bit, a lot. Who got through that without a mistake? 2. Well, that's fairly disgraceful, isn't it? Can we try again, please?
I only made 1 mistake the second time.
Yep.
After what happened, I was that upset. I didn't want to go back on stage again. I felt like a fool. I was embarrassed. I remember calling Diane, crying on the phone and speaking to Mum, crying again. It was just really emotional.
At that point, I felt like saying, just walk away from it.
And it took a lot of thinking. Everyone just sort of said to me, you know, despite what's happened, Bri, you've got to get out there and give it a go. And, you know, prove to everyone that you do deserve to win and that you can win. And just when I had made that decision, my foot injuries flared up again, and I felt almost like it was a sign to say, don't come back. I did push through it, and the week and a half prior to Ballarat, I sort of whipped up a new solo and had a few practices, and then I just had to put it on stage. I must admit, results came around, and when I was called out second, I felt like, you know, I'd been defeated in all aspects, that I really wasn't deserving of a win and that I never was good enough in the first place. And it was so hard just to hold those tears in. And when the curtain came down, I just couldn't hold it in any longer. I'm just really lucky I had all my close friends there to sort of bail me up and pull me off stage and shut the dressing room door and just let me be.
It's so important for any calisthenic girl who has been on the solo journey for many years to get that Graceful Girl title. It'd be like an Olympian who always gets a silver medal. It's nice, but it's not what you want.
I remember saying to people for a couple of months after that, oh no, I don't think I could face it again. I don't want to put myself through that. Everyone said to me, no, you've got to come back and give it one more shot. You've got to. You'll regret it if you don't. But in the end, I changed my mind and sort of thought, you know what, just give it one more go. And this is absolutely it. And if it doesn't happen this year, well, it doesn't, and it was never meant to.
Hands out of your pockets, Carol. Chin up, Twinny.
I think calisthenics helps with a lot of other aspects of their lives, not just the physical. They learn to be part of a team. They have a special relationship with their mothers, especially as they go through their teenage years, because they have got something in common with their mothers, sometimes fathers if they're in with building props and things like that.
I guess you just want your little girl to do the best she can possibly do. And of course, as a parent, your responsibility is to give her the best preparation.
Be a thinker on the stage, be smart, okay?
Give her the best psyching up, if you like. Just whatever it takes for her to feel good about herself when she steps up to the line and her music starts. That's where it ends. You can't do much more after that.
Well, so far this year's been different to other years because I'm coaching 2 girls in the 17 and over age group. One is an open reserve and one's actually in my section.
Yeah. So be really careful that they stay soft and let it retract too much.
Julia, who I teach in the open reserve section, this is her first year in seniors, and it's her first time trying out for Ballarat. So for her, it's a really big thing. And then there's Carly. She's gotten through to Ballarat before. And when she did ask me to coach her solo, I said to her at the start, look, if I do decide to go back, it'll be awkward in the sense that when we get to the big comps, CVI, Ballarat, if you get through as well and I get through, I don't think I could be your coach then. I'll be a fellow competitor because I need to focus on myself. And she was very understanding with that, which is good. So I thought in order just to be fair to Carly, I didn't enter any of the local comps this year. So instead I was playing the coach role, which was really nice. I really enjoyed that. I got to watch the section and admire everyone else because in our particular age group, there's so much talent.
Performing is the most addictive thing I think you can do. My actual performance of the year that I won Graceful was a really amazing experience because my mum always taught me my solos. The moment I stepped out onto stage, I felt like the audience was with me. They were on my side almost. It was a really nice feeling. And when I stepped off the stage, I walked all the way around the back of the stage into the green room, and by the time I was in the green room, they were still applauding. I'll absolutely never forget it. Never forget it.
There's competitor number 23.
Diane said she was 30 before I gave her a class, which was a bit mean. I should have given her a class before that. And she took over the senior class.
And I just worked really hard. And I made them work really hard, and I was probably hard on them. But I think deep down they liked it. Same time as the other. Just go a little bit quicker.
They won absolutely everything. For 18 years in a row, they won the overall aggregate for the leading club in Australia.
When Diane took over the seniors, it was as if a bolt of lightning had hit calisthenics. Her creative, explosive work really did transform calisthenics at the time.
No one really got close to them. They were at the top of the tree. They had won everything that could be won year in, year out. But they deserved to win it. They were the best. When it closed in 97, I think people were in shock. People never ever thought that Regent would close. They just thought that there was the tree, the family tree. There was Mrs. Feltham, there was Diane, and then Brooke, and then it would just go from one to the other. To have a break, you could understand, but I think because they closed it, that's where people got really, really angry.
Having so many girls and so much pressure, I think Regent closed eventually because I burnt out. It becomes a negative pressure when you win all the time. It doesn't become, wow, we won. It was, phew, we won. There were a lot of very disappointed people when we did close Regent. There were quite a few even that were angry at us for doing that, especially those that had been right through Regent themselves and they wanted the same thing for their daughter. And we were denying them that, so they were angry.
I remember bawling my eyes out when I was told, absolutely shattered, because I knew I wouldn't be a Regent Senior. And that's all I wanted, to be a Regent Senior. The last concert that we had was a very emotional day. I looked out into the audience, everyone was crying.
So we had a final performance and that finished it off.
The old Regent closed in 97, the end of 97, and then a decade later we reopened. And the decision to reopen Regent, it wasn't so much that we wanted to reopen Regent, it was that I wanted to try teaching calisthenics. And it was my grandma who said, you've got to name it Regent. When I finally said, okay, yes, let's do this, it was like I fell through the floor, really. I was a bit surprised at myself, and I'm still coming to grips with that it's reopened, actually, because I don't want to undo what was already done. Yeah.
Ready for another big day?
That's it. You tell those legs to go out. Step to those knees. Look where you're standing around. It's this line over here, Brooke.
I helped her just to get going, and then I'm supposed to have stepped back. And 3 years down the track, I still haven't stepped back.
But can you just get them to do that bit across the front, just so I can check which arm they do?
Yeah. And one toe. Come on, stretch that foot really hard. And cross. Brooke's still going to do one more year of performing herself, and then I'll completely step back and she'll take over then. Straight legs. 1, 2, 3.
I don't know of any other calisthenic teachers who have had professional experience in the theatre. There's certainly other students who have, but they don't try and teach as well because they're probably a bit more clever than I am and realise that juggling the two is close to impossible. The very first show I auditioned for, I actually got, which I was very lucky, which was Cats, and we toured Australia for 2 years. So I've done Sunset Boulevard, How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, Crazy for You, and Spamalot.
and I have my fingers crossed for a musical called A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, which Geoffrey Rush is starring in, and it would just be a bit of a dream to work alongside him.
When she gets a job, she's quite obsessed, actually. Aren't you?
Maybe.
Maybe. She's totally obsessed. Calisthenics doesn't really get much of a look in. She totally loses interest in that for whatever time the show runs or whatever. That's why I always have to hold the fort. I love watching Brooke on stage and also knowing how much she's enjoying doing that. But really my comeback into calisthenics was just to really help her get started. So I'm not enthusiastic about keeping it going all on my own while she goes off and does shows. But she has actually given up a few shows that Chicago was one of them. She did get into that. And she would have absolutely loved doing that, but she had to refuse that one because it was due to start just before Regent was beginning.
Giving up Chicago was just... I'm gonna cry, actually. The situation with Chicago, I actually didn't get a first round offer. So after I found out that I didn't get it, that's when we went ahead with Regent. And then it was after that, after we'd told everyone, after people had left their other clubs and after they'd committed to us, that's when I found out that I'd got it. And Chicago, along with Cats, was the show I wanted.
Today is the day of eliminations for Ballarat, and Mum's just getting my hair done, put all my tan on this morning, thick layers of it, of course. The costume I'm wearing is a coral pink colour. Mum actually designed it and decorated it, but we get our friend Anne to make it. Mum, just so you know, none of those pins have gone into my actual head. I don't know if you could tell. By the end of the day, it would start to hurt really badly, and you often come away with a bruised head.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, well, I do. Like I said, it's got to hurt.
There would probably be around 80 girls to start off with, and they are eliminated in several processes, down to a final of 20 girls, and they're the ones that are selected to compete in October in Ballarat.
We get competitors generally from WA, South Australia, and then occasionally from Canberra, New South Wales, Queensland, Northern Territory. And if you win prize money and sashes and just the honour of being Most Graceful Girl, your name goes down in the program and yeah, you're remembered. So how long to go now before we go on? Oh, it's very soon, so I've got to get out there and run through it one last time and do some leaps and get myself ready.
How are you feeling?
Yeah, starting to feel pretty excited. Yeah. Not that wonderfully, but last week was probably a bit better, I think. But hey, I got through it. No wobbles, so that's a good thing. Just glad to get through it.
And now I would like to announce the 20 finalists who will appear at South Street. Here's number 3, Naomi Sultan. Feature number 4, Carly Harrison. Feature number 11, Molly Nugent. Feature number 21, Megan Rwana. Feature number 22, Julia. Number 38, Brianna Lee. I present to you the Royal South Street finalists.
Costuming is getting more and more important in calisthenics.
We did practically everything with mosquito netting. We used to dye mosquito netting and used a lot of crepe paper. It was pretty awful, really, but you know, we managed. We sort of got a costume on the stage and they didn't look too bad, I suppose.
A lot of third generation grandmas, it's their hobby to come to calisthenics each week. They stand the girls up and line them up and make sure they're all correct. They have a lot of pride when they see their girls up on stage wearing something they created.
The height of that hat compared to the height of the skirts.
They're just different hats altogether, aren't they?
This costume's for their marching, and we're representing the beefeaters, the what do you call them, yeomen of the guard, and we've sort of started with one of the genuine pictures and worked from that, just basing it on that. Let's see what they've got on the side of their tights here that I'm supposed to have.
Are we having that?
Yep.
What about, what's on the feet?
Would you like to make 32 of them before Saturday?
You had one costume. You had one leotard that was for all your physical work, and then you put a little pleated skirt on to do marching. Then you had an aesthetics dress and a fancy dress. And you knew if you came out in your red leotard with the crown on it, you were a Regent girl. And if you were a Clifton girl, you had a burgundy with golds. And it was Diane that actually started the different colours, costumes to match the music that they did the items to.
It is probably unusual that I'm involved with the costumes, but I like to do the first one, just so that I can get my own way and get it exactly as I want it.
We're working on the Rod's headgear that matches what's on the floor that Diane's been doing. It's all very new to us, so we're just sort of trying to work it out with measurements and make it as easy as possible by being as particular as we can so that they all look the same. It's wire, it's buckram, it's floristry tape, it's bugles, it's black paint. It's going to be easy, so Lee keep telling us.
I know myself, I've been in tears over not being able to get a costume right, or it's just been terrible. But you work through it because your child loves it. You know, that's the bottom line. They love it and they get so much out of it that I think parents probably sacrifice a great deal. It takes a lot of sacrifice, you know, but that's how it is.
I'm supposed to be giving you instructions. See how you part these?
Yeah, I've done all that.
And then you just glue those one to the other in the middle.
Okay.
So that's your job.
And that's a number 2 at the back and that's a number 1.
Yes, obviously the higher one's at the back, so... So then you just flatten that out and glue gun the whole lot across.
On top of the hat, but what part of the hat? Oh,
see
here.
the 2 stripes?
Yeah.
They're there specially for you so that you would know where to put them.
I'm not that...
But it will be covered.
I'm not that dope. I've just got lots of things on my mind.
But if you pin these bits back before you start, it makes life a lot easier.
Oh, I might take notes.
That's the overall effect that we should have when we're done.
A couple of weeks before the dress rehearsal is quite stressful because we do need to make sure that everybody has all their bits so that it's all done in time, so when they turn up at the dress rehearsal, the girls are comfortable, Diane's happy.
They can just glue that onto them.
And it runs smoothly. Theory.
She's got lots of holes. Yeah. I've got a hole here.
I don't care about holes as long as you got. I mean, I am. Okay. 5 holes, 2 for your arm, 2 for your legs, and 1 for your neck.
They're just about all done. It's just the finishing touches now.
Oh, do it on Maggie. Now you've only got 1 foot to work on, Maggie, haven't you?
It's just the sequining finishing, and today we just pinned all the stripes on. They can be stitched on, and then it's all done.
There's probably not one specific thing that I think would move calisthenics forward. It's quite a hefty handful of little flaws that that make calisthenics not that popular with the general public, I guess. I'd just love it to be more accepted. I think it is looked down on a little bit. The bad media that we've got recently with relating it closely to beauty pageants. Unfortunately, I think there are some similarities between the two. At the moment, calisthenics has a very needy audience, and the way that we're told that the kids have to play up to the judges, I don't agree with at all. Smile at the judge, look at the front. I think that it needs to be something that is viewed as a piece of art. Grooming is very important. We need to know how to be subtle with makeup, how to do hair and makeup according to age, being age appropriate, and I think that that is still another big flaw in calisthenics.
With the younger children particularly, when you see them bouncing around with their ringlets in their hair for any old calisthenic item, I don't see the need for that. But I do understand that sometimes, particularly for the really theatrical items, the wigs have a place. I don't agree with the whole fake tan side of things. I don't see the need for that, particularly when you're 5 years old. I just think that's silly.
I think it can go too far. I really do think primping and preening little girls too much can give them a message that I'm not worth anything unless I'm beautiful. I think if the calisthenics world was compared to some of the beauty pageants that seem to happen with little children involved, it would be very sad. And I know it has been said, but I think they need to look beyond that and see that this is way more than just little girls looking cute with curls. This is a great deal of talent that is developed in these kids.
Well, I hadn't actually been able to get through my solo till today. I feel weak when I get nervous, so I've got to be really fit. Everyone's gotten so much better than they've been over the last couple of years.
Megan probably is your main competition, just going on past results.
We're very close
So
together.
there's going to be a direct comparison there. And you're ready to win, aren't you?
Oh, hopefully.
It's turned out that she is quite talented at choreography herself. I give suggestions and I help a bit with technique, but we've switched roles just a little bit. And mind that the fingers don't come out in the chamois. Bring your hand back and it's already...
Okay.
Yeah. I guess she's learned a little bit from me, but for what it takes to be a winner, it's got to be in you. Stay really strong here. Don't give in because you know you're near the end, because that's where you're going to lose a little control. On Saturday at our little dress rehearsal for the younger children, I was on my own because Brooke was in a show called The Producers on at the State Theatre. She's got another couple of shows coming up, so hopefully they won't clash with any of our competitions or any of our really important dates. And left arm up, 1 and 2. Who's first? You're 2 and you're 3. All right, so would you remember this is the way you're facing Emma when you do that bit? It was quite frustrating because so many of them had been on holidays. Indy, can you stand up strong and stretch? You look like you're half asleep. All that trouble sewing and you don't show off all the pretty dresses. And they'd sort of really just forgotten most of their work.
I'm your little ootsy cutie baby. Your ootsy hootsy cutie baby doll. Just as sweet as sugar cotton candy.
That was a good start, wasn't it? Does somebody think they might be standing in the wrong spot?
Your ootsy hootsy.
Twins, did you have a look and see where the middle was? Really, it's got to be our fault somehow for it to be across the whole 4 groups that we have. It's not just a coincidence, is it? You should blame yourself. All right, so jump in without looking at the floor and without unpointing your feet, and then stand up and look very important like you did before. So we're not either not motivating them, or we're not being strict enough, or there's something that we're not quite doing right, obviously. But hopefully we'll get it right soon and we'll start to improve just when it really counts, because it is nearly competition season. The parents tend to think their children are just cute. Put it down near your leg. Right, that's where that one's got to be. But they really have a lot more potential to learn than their parents give them credit for. Come here, please. You know you can still do arms straight even though you've got your costume on. You show me that, because you've usually got lovely straight arms. All right.
I'll take it off now.
Saturday was not a very pleasant time for me. Yeah, hopefully things will improve. That was awful.
That was.
Late for calisthenics, not good. I was lucky enough to get into a funny thing happened on the way to the forum. I got a call from my agent and yeah, she said that it had come through, that I'd been accepted, which was so exciting, but immediately my mind went to, okay, I need to juggle calisthenics with this. Is it going to work?
Go forward or back. Feet together, right, and then a side step. Well, that looks too wide, so we're not covering here.
We're a few weeks out from competitions. Seniors are the first ones to go on comps, and I would say that we're a little behind where we would like to be at this stage.
Cara, you don't lift that knee up before you lunge back.
A few weeks ago we changed all our positions in one of our routines, and one of the girls was away the night that we changed positions, so I just want to sort of clarify her spots for her.
This is because Brooke had to stand out of it, isn't it?
It is my fault, yeah. Yep, my fault. But we've got many pages of people's positions and can't seem to find the one we want.
Spacing's still wrong there. Way too slow. Where were you when we did this the other 5,000 times? Just sort of, yeah. Put them back again.
Would you ever go on holidays?
Never. No, I went actually probably 45 years or more without missing a week. Front line, are you going round in that little circle as fast as you can? Entertaining. Okay, can I have everybody out on stage for a moment, please? Could I have all the mothers on stage as well, please?
Mothers as well. Junior mothers.
Okay then, well, just so long as everyone can hear. Girls, we have got so much work to do if, and I'm saying if, we are going to get on competitions. And I just would like to let everybody know at this stage that unless things get better, I will not be putting anything on competitions this year. I'm sorry you've gone to all the trouble of the costumes, but I have never put work on that looks like this, and I'm not about to now. This is my 50th year of teaching, so I have had many, many, many teams on competitions, and I have never put work on that looks like what I've seen today. I'm not sure whether this is all we're capable of, or whether you're not working at home at all. I don't know, I can't tell that. So I'm just giving you a little bit of warning because I don't want to pull the plug at the last minute.
Oh,
look, it's probably pretty typical. Everything looks just revolting and you think we're never going to make it. Every kid should be setting goals today about what they can achieve. And if you ever think you don't need to be better, then give it up because there's no point coming. You know, that's what you're here for.
I think it worries the little ones that when she says comments like that, but maybe that will just make them work a little bit harder so that they're right for the first comp.
What's going on now? I'm going to have a rest to try and regain my sanity.
You really do wonder whether calisthenics is right for today's people.
Yep.
And I have my doubts.
So why do you do it then?
It's the question of the century.
Why do you run this club?
You've really got me stumped. I don't know. I don't know why the hell we do it, really.
I think Dad's got my music. Have you got my music, Dad? It's an unlabelled CD. The lead up to the comp this year was the most stressful lead up I've ever had to anything.
Well, it's really good to see that you've actually got a dress. We're a bit worried about that. But Anne's always worth waiting for. She does such beautiful sewing, so we knew.
The pressure was just on. You know, I'd left my solo later than I wanted to because I really should have had it choreographed and ready earlier.
Tonight's the first time I've seen it on stage, a solo. I'm surprised at how much you've done in so little time.
Still having to think what comes next? I think she's a little apprehensive herself about investing too much time in it and being really disappointed if she gets yet another second. So should you be thinking of something more stable there?
Yeah.
Don't take a chance on something that's not that important. I think the more you invest, the more you stand to lose if it doesn't succeed. So I think she's safeguarding herself a little emotionally. No, that's looking good. I don't particularly like you letting go of skirting that arabesque, but that's only me.
I'd be quite happy not to let go, from a risk perspective even.
Oh, yeah.
I did go in feeling a little bit less prepared than I would have liked. Probably even more so.
Her fitness didn't seem quite what it should have been.
Oh, is that the line?
Just all her reminders of things that she could have been doing a little better. There seemed to be too many to remember, plus give an emotional performance all at once.
Should I hold my legs? Or that's done.
Right, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, thanks for coming.
Bye.
Bye.
She really wants to win this for her coach as much as herself.
We go to Ballarat in 4 more days. Yeah, so we're just doing a few last-minute pointers and getting them used to the feel of the stage again. You've done your pas de chat. Ellie, you're looking on the floor nearly all the way through. I think I better paint eyes on your eyelids, do you think? Sophie, where's your big smile gone? Come on, you're supposed to be entertainers. You're supposed to be making all those people out the front feel good. Well, I was going, boring, boring. Come on, wake me up this time, will you, please? Wake me up. The way they were at the Ballarat rehearsal, I would have been reluctant to have put them on any competitions. And I really meant what I was saying. But they've smartened up a little and probably increased their practice time at home.
Don't worry about it. You can just stay exactly where you are. Don't have to do any of the movements. Let's do it without the music.
Diane's exhausted. I don't know about that.
Yes, exhausted.
Yeah, I'm pretty much exhausted because Brooke hasn't been around much. She's been rehearsing her show.
Unfortunately, I'm going to miss Graceful Girl this year because there's a preview of the show on the Friday night, so I'll race back for that.
You've actually read the whole thing, have you?
No, I haven't. I've just been flicking through.
Gwenda was my secretary for 40 years.
Gwenda, what makes you stick with calisthenics after all these years?
I've decided it's definitely a disease that you get, an incurable disease.
this myself. I might have to do it. What's the top half? Blush going on, okay? You with me? It's a little bit violent, but it'll tone down later.
This is the glue that we stick the eyelashes on with. Not super glue gun.
I remember a psychologist, a sports psychologist, saying, well, it isn't about fun. At the end of the day, you really do want them to win.
Right, I'm done.
But politically being correct these days, we're not supposed to tell our children that. But you know, you don't go in a competition to lose. You go in a competition to be at your best, and you want to see if you're going to be that best.
Yes, it is make or break at Ballarat. The other competitions are like a dress rehearsal, and you hope on the day up here that you will actually get it right. Every little piece of fruit you eat makes you jump that much higher. Did you know that?
All the kids are about to go on stage. Everybody's very nervous and shaking, and so. But when we get on stage, everybody thinks it's much funner, and they don't get nervous anymore. The other year, there was this girl in the front. It was at another club. She was at the front, and the judge was staring at her, and she was so nervous that she ran off in tears, and it was very, her coach wasn't very happy, so.
Judges, how important you are. Okay, let's do this.
Number 12, Regent.
The juniors did better than I expected them to, seeing as they were mostly out of their age group. They were finished up winning their last two items, which was free arm and rods. Bit amazing for that group of children.
So we're about to go on for our first item, which of course is march.
It's the middle people, you know, in the diamond. You know how there's two people on the dots? It's the two middle people, because sometimes I think we still like push out too far. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So then I can't be around the dot.
Yeah, and then I'll go.
And then Flick will yell at me.
Everybody as an individual has to try really hard. You know how good you can be and how bad you can be if you don't. Yeah, don't leave it to everybody else is what I think I'm saying. Yeah, just make sure you're not the one, when I pause that DVD, that you're not the drip that's out of the line. Nobody be drippy today. Come on, we're ready to go.
Ready, ladies?
Felt strong, felt together.
Yeah, I think it was okay. It was a good start. Yeah, a few spacing issues I hear from Mum.
The seniors so far today could have been doing better because the standard is so much higher. You can't afford for any little thing to go wrong, and they have had little things that go wrong. Be good at all the stuff you're good at. Melanie's not really sure what's wrong with her, has been told possible stress fractures in her back. So we're trying to sort of modify a few things where we can, just in case that's what it is, because I would hate any of them to finish up with anything really damaging.
We did make some changes before we went on to try and help her, but she's a trooper and she didn't want to have to change too much. So.
I know that I went into the day with one item in particular in mind. If I could have chosen which one I wanted to win, it would have been aesthetics.
I think that was the best item I've ever seen. I really do. I enjoyed it so much. I would say that is my very favourite item of all time. I think that's Brooke at her best, yes.
We're
about to give results now.
Now the aesthetic section, wow, it was just lovely. Very delicate costumes and beautiful choices of music again.
Did you tell second place with 24 points went to competitor number 10, Regent.
I was going to say, that's really cool.
What number are we?
And first place with 42 points. Now congratulations, competitor number 6.
Catching on now, that's what you're supposed to do. Send somebody a message on the phone to say you've got back when you settle in after 7 o'clock. Not me, because I don't have my phone with me. You know which way home you're going. You've got your route planned, have you?
To get to the theatre.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just went to the wall, so
I can't knows where to go.
Here in the spotlight, nothing else matters. Life is a breeze when I'm moving. My steps are led by the song in my head. Moving my feet, feeling the beat. Here in the spotlight, dancing and spinning. No one can stop me dancing tonight. 'Cause I'm on fire, nothing else matters. In the spotlight.
When those drums start to play a rhythm, that's when I start clicking on 2 and 4. Ladies dancing here are such a vision. That's when the band begins to roll. And I'm moving with the band now, better than I did before. Come, it's time to it's time to dance, yeah!
Right. She's got to leave and get back to Melbourne by 7 o'clock, or she says she'll get the sack. Getting in these shows makes her so happy that putting on my mother hat, we've got to be happy about it because that's really all she ever wants to do. I'm afraid calisthenics does come second to that. Once she's outgrown them, she may come back to this being, her first priority. I've told her to park illegally when she gets there and we'll worry about fines later. I don't think mothers are supposed to say that to their children, but anyway, when 600 people audition for something, you can call the shots, absolutely. We're scratching and begging to get 16 girls to just turn up to class. Never mind, for a bunch of amateurs, they're not too bad.
It's really, really yummy. So thank you very much, everyone, for that.
The senior aggregate at Ballarat was won by Diane. We were third overall and we were close to runners-up. Came down to the last item. I think if we had been told that that was going to happen at the start of the year, we wouldn't have believed it. And we still haven't really got it running like the old Regent was running. And until that happens, I don't think we will reach number one.
really honest, I know if I don't win it this year, I'll be gutted, I'll be devastated, I'll be really upset. Because, you know, all the years that have led up to it have been so intense.
I'm sorry. Is Judy telling you about it right now? I don't know. Diane's got like little props.
I think another second would be too much to expect her to really cope with. Then she'll be fairly devastated. Hopefully that won't happen.
And now we can announce the third place getter. Ask the presenter, of course, to present that to competitor number 15, Sheridan Bale. Second prize. And that has gone to competitor number 7, Brianna. And of course, the big prize for first. And with 42 points, awarded to competitor number 2, Brianna Lee.
Overwhelmed. I'm absolutely ecstatic. The moment has come. There's so many people to thank. My coach Diane Synott. She's been amazing over the years and I've learned so much from her. Thank you so much to my parents. You are just my rocks and have been forever. I feel like I'm in a dream, so I feel like I'm still asleep right now and I might possibly wake up and this isn't real, so we'll wait and we'll see tomorrow morning if I'm still alive and this has all happened. I'm really happy. So excited for you. Say, Mum!
Yeah, this is good fun. I like winning.
Next year there is going to be some changes. It involves Mum stepping out of the senior age group a bit more. Brianna and I will be co-teaching. I think it'll be a slow process, but she'll always be in the background for sure. As long as I'm still sticking with it, she'll be whispering in my ear. Yeah, she'll continue to make sure I'm doing what I'm setting out to do.
I reckon it'll take about 5 years. I reckon they'll get there. I'm hoping. I'm really hoping. I hope I'm still here at that stage.
I can't believe I've actually finally won. I can't really describe in words exactly how I feel about it all. It's just perfect. It'll be nice to have my name in the program forever. The funniest thing is being graceful girl means absolutely nothing in the scheme of things. You say it to somebody out in the street and they'd go, excuse me, what's graceful girl? What do you do? Float around the stage in a pretty dress? I think in the calisthenics world it's a huge achievement, and hopefully people enjoyed my performance and, you know, went along with me, I suppose, on my journey.
When those drums start to play a rhythm, that's when I start clicking on 2 and 4. Ladies dancing here are such a vision. That's when the band begins to roll, and I'm moving